The feeling of rejection is one of the most uncomfortable and painful experiences we get to learn from as humans, which can then lead to us adopting unhealthy strategies to avoid feeling rejected again. Like not going after careers, hobbies, activities, opportunities, people that we're interested in, and that just prolongs the fear of rejection more because we're succumbing to that fear. When in reality, from a universal perspective, rejection is simply just redirection. It's just showing you what you're not in alignment with so that you can pivot and redirect yourself to go after something that you're actually more in alignment with than the thing you originally thought you wanted. And when we look at it this way, we can actually make peace with it and see it as a blessing or a gift in disguise. Hey, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Clearly, this video is all about how rejection is actually a blessing in disguise. You never can see it or feel it in the moment unless you're like super aware and conscious and have done all this crazy inner work. But as little children, we have not done that. We do not know that. And even now, like I am still literally learning this. And I like put myself in a position recently to potentially get rejected, and then I did, and I was like, I'm fine. And that showed me that I have done a lot of inner work to get there, because in previous years of my life, past years of my life, I would have freaked out and been like, that is so embarrassing, that is so shameful, that's so uncomfortable, like why did I even do that? And then this time around when I did it, I was like, okay, well at least I know that that didn't work, and that is fine, and I don't know why it didn't work, but I do know that it's not a reflection of who I am and my self-worth. It's just that that situation was not for me. It was not meant to be, and partially it kind of inspired this video, so it ended up working out in my favor anyway, and I got a positive result because now I'm filming this video for you. So let's take it back, all the way back to the beginning of time, or the beginning of my time. Well, actually, I don't know if I completely remember the first time I was rejected. I'm sure it probably happened by my parents, because usually that is where all of our first origins, root things stemmed from in the first place, was either, well, I guess it's not just our parents. It's our ancestral trauma. So our parents' parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents passed all these things down to us that we now have to heal. And this one is one for me, which is probably one for you as well if you're watching this, because you wouldn't have clicked this if you've never experienced a painful rejection in the first place, or having a fear of rejection altogether. So I may not remember the first rejection, but I remember literally being in preschool getting rejected from my classmates. Like they didn't want to play with me, and I was sad about it. And I experienced that when I went to summer camp. The girls like didn't really want to be my friend, and I was sad about it. And I probably did things that made me a little strange and made them think I was a little strange and not relatable to them, but it really doesn't matter because you are who you are. And as a little kid, we don't really know the reasons why or the differences between why people want to be friends with us versus why they don't. We just know they either do or they don't. And we take that to heart, and it can bring our self-esteem down if we don't have people explaining to us why things are the way we are. And oftentimes, because we take it to heart and don't really know the reasons why, we blame ourselves and don't see the full picture because we're so focused on, oh, I'm not good enough, I didn't get this opportunity because my skills weren't good enough, oh, this person doesn't like me because I'm not pretty enough. We make up a reason that belittles ourselves even more than we already are feeling. And the thing that actually got me to sort of realize that rejection is redirection was when I watched a situation in which I was rejected fully play out. And only in hindsight could I look back now, or even a few years from now when it had happened in the first place, understand why getting rejected in that moment was actually to my benefit. So I'll give you the little story, the little rundown of what happened so you can get a clear picture of what I mean. Basically, when I was younger, there was this guy that I was talking to who I really liked. But when I say I really liked him, I didn't know him that well. We only hung out a few times. The best way I could describe it is that it was a crush for me. And maybe he liked me too in certain ways, but not enough to want to continue to talk to me. So that ends up not working out, and I feel so disheartened. I felt so rejected. I blamed myself. I was so ashamed. I was like, what could I have done to make him like me more? Probably a part of my people pleasing that came from a different rejection earlier on, but still, nonetheless. I was pretty devastated about this experience. And one of the reasons was because I placed this guy on a pedestal and made him out to be perfect in my mind, which he's a human. He's not perfect. He's not any more special than me. He's only special to me because I made him special to me, but in the grand scheme of things, he's just as special as any other human. We are all special in our own ways. We are all different and unique, and we have our negatives and our positives. But from the awareness that I had at the time, I didn't know that. I just thought, oh, I wasn't good enough and I'm never gonna find anyone better, and he was the best, and all these things that ran through my head, you know? So as it may be, he came back into my life. And this time around, I had a little more awareness, we could say, of the fact that, you know, he's a person. He may not be the best person ever, but I still sort of had those feelings that I think I like him. But again, I didn't fully know him. And because he came back into my life, I got to know him. I got to fully know him. I became friends with him. And what I found out after, I would say, a good amount of time, maybe a year of being friends with this guy, was that he was definitely not the right guy for me. I actually ended up seeing him get into a relationship with somebody. And that relationship that he got into was probably one of the most toxic relationships that I firsthand witnessed. I say all this to say that you really don't know someone till you know someone. And even then, we're ever changing and ever growing and ever expanding. And what I got to learn from that experience was that I dodged a bullet, because if I would have gotten to a relationship with that guy at that time in our lives, it would have turned into a very toxic relationship that would have been bad for both of us. And I was at a pretty vulnerable place at that time in my life on a personal level that I think if I were to have gotten into a relationship with him, like if it would have worked out in the favor that I thought I wanted it to, it would have totally messed me up in ways that I was definitely not ready for. So in essence, that rejection was actually a blessing in disguise, a redirection, a pivot. And you know what? The friendship that I had with him was actually pretty beneficial to both of us. So I am grateful that I was rejected. I'm grateful that it worked out the way it did. But I could only see that in hindsight. Like, I couldn't see it in the moment that I was being rejected because I didn't know. I wasn't aware that things would eventually work out to be even better than what I wanted them to be. So if you're in a place where you're experiencing maybe a job not working out, or, you know, a setback in what you think you want your life to be, a breakup, a rejection from somebody you think you like, a friendship breakup, or somebody that you want to be friends with not having an interest in being friends with you. You know, there could be a myriad of reasons, and sometimes we won't know the answer. Sometimes we'll never know the answer or reason, but we just have to trust that it's the universe protecting us, that it's the universe redirecting us in a better direction for us and collectively everyone involved, because we don't know what would happen if we got what we wanted and then it turned out to not really be what we wanted. Because I have experienced that too. I experienced a relationship where I kept trying to force this relationship to work, and the other person, he kept trying to force this relationship to work with me as well. And in actuality, if one of us would have been like, you know what, no, we gotta reject this and go our separate ways, we probably would have avoided years of a toxic, not in alignment dynamic that we had experienced. Now, I think every experience that we experience is meant to happen and meant to teach us something. So even though I can look back and be like, oh, well, if we would have rejected each other, we would have avoided that. Yeah, but also there were a lot of lessons that we needed to learn in that so that we could be the people that we are now. Whether he learned and became better, that's not my problem, that's his problem. I have no idea. But I know that I took all the things that I went through, and you know, I'm still healing from many things in that relationship and many things in life, but I have grown a lot, and I can look back and see it for what it is. Because it's really hard when you're in the moment of a rejection or a negative situation to see it as a positive, but when you step back, when you're out of it, when you go through it, when you're on the other side, that's when you get the clarity, get the knowledge that you needed to receive and now embody. That's when it really sets in. But in the moment, it's tough. It's really tough. I will say that. Okay, so I just took a sip of water and spilled it down my shirt. Please don't judge. We are going to continue anyway because I finally have sunlight. It's been raining all morning and I am just grateful that the sun is shining and we have nice natural light for this video because I did not want to pull out the ring light. Basically, what rejection caused me to feel was this deep shame of not feeling worthy, not feeling lovable, not feeling worthy of achieving what I want to achieve, not feeling like I matter. I also felt embarrassment which is, I think, another form of shame. It's very similar. I also felt sadness, loss. Like, I'm never going to get what I want. I'm never going to live the life I want to live. I'm never going to be with the person I want to be with. I'm never going to experience joy and love and excitement and all the array of positive feelings there are to feel. I also felt fear of the future, of what if my life is just not going to be a happy one? What if I never get what I want? What if I live a life that I just don't want to be living? I probably felt the whole spectrum of negative emotions, but the three that stood out to me the most were shame, fear, and sadness. And those ones are some of the hardest to deal with. They're really, really uncomfortable to sit with and let yourself feel. We do so many different like mental, emotional gymnastics to avoid feeling them in the first place. So when we do have to feel them, it can be like so jarring, so uncomfortable, so like, help, I don't want to feel this. But like I say in most videos, the only way out is through, and you have to allow yourself to feel those feelings because you're not going to be able to heal them unless you feel them. But of course, without that awareness, we do a lot of things to cope externally so that we can avoid feeling them. And here's a list of things that I do to cope externally to avoid feeling rejected. And a lot of them are kind of silly. Like, okay, Julia, you play a song on the aux in the car. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? They don't like it. Big deal, it's not your song. Like, why are you so upset if your friends don't like a song that you like? I don't know why, but something so small as that can bring up the feeling of rejection for me. So one of the ways I cope is keeping things I like or I'm interested in to myself, unless I know that someone else that I'm with or want to share it with is also interested in it too. And that's kind of like not great, because then, at least for me, it's like I'm harboring all these positive, really cool things that I could be sharing. Another one is hiding more vulnerable or undesirable parts of me. Like my OCD, I used to keep it a secret, and I still do to a certain extent. Like I am very uncomfortable talking about the specific things that give me obsessive compulsive thoughts and actions. So I'm open about sharing that I have it, but I'm not fully there and able to completely describe and share what goes on with it for me and like what triggers me and this and that. Again, I'm gonna have to do a lot more inner work on that. Changing my body and face to appear more desirable. I feel like there is nothing wrong with a glow up or wanting to transform yourself to look more desirable, but you want it to come from a place of, oh, like I love myself how I am, let me accentuate and embellish. Is that a good word to use? Embellish? Sure. Let me accentuate, embellish, decorate, add to the beauty that I already love about myself, as opposed to, I don't like my face, I don't like myself, I don't like my body, let me change it. Like when it comes from a place of insecurity, not the best, but when you're coming from a place of, oh, I love myself, I want to just continue to make myself more and more beautiful, then, you know, it's a different story. This way that I have coped is interesting, and it's not the only reason I do what I do. It definitely was a shadow reason for it, but getting popular, getting famous online, being seen online, one of my shadow reasons was, oh, if a lot of people like me, then that makes me more worthy. That makes me more desirable to others. It's like, oh, this girl is famous, like I want to be her friend. It doesn't work like that, and I definitely found that out, especially if somebody wants to be your friend just because you have followers. You don't want to be that person's friend. That's not a friend. Let's put it at that. So that was like a shadow reason. Obviously, there's a million other more positive reasons for me wanting to do what I do online, and I live from that space so much more now. I would say it's probably like 95% living from that space and maybe 5% the shadow reason, if even, maybe like 1% the shadow reason. I really have worked through that one a lot, so I'm grateful for that. Never getting too close to people, holding people at arm's length, not going after things I want to try if I feel I'm not good at it, people pleasing, I feel like you guys all know about that one, trying to predict how others would react to things ahead of time to avoid rejection, and not going outside my comfort zone to try new things. I'm sure there are more things that aren't coming to mind right now that I can add to that list, but I want you to take a second, either right now, pause the video, or when you're done the video, to come up with your own list of coping strategies that you do to avoid feeling rejected. I know that when I lost a lot of access to my YouTube following, that evoked so much shame and that rejection feeling, because I put so much of my self-worth in having as many followers and views that I had. I still have the followers, but I don't get the views that I had, and I put a lot of self-worth into that. And I know a lot of other social media people and just people in general do put a lot of self-worth in their careers, in their work, in the things that they're proud of that they do, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think when it can be destructive is when you put your self-worth in the reactions of other people and their attention. So when I wasn't getting the 2 million plus views that I would get per video, it was really disheartening for me, and I felt very ashamed of it. I didn't want people to watch my videos because I was like, I'm not getting the views that I once had. It doesn't matter what the reason was. I don't really know the exact reason other than maybe shadow and banning. That's more of the reality of the situation, but I took it to heart and I took it as, oh, my content isn't good enough. I'm not good enough. Shamed myself, felt ashamed, felt embarrassed, didn't want people to see that I wasn't doing so well view-wise, and it took me years to really accept this. I mean, now I'm here making videos and obviously I want people to watch because I feel like my content is helpful, but I'm not pressed on it. And if no one watches, I know that these videos help me just as much as they help you. So I'm okay with it. I know people will eventually watch. So I know that all these things I'm saying and all the ideas that I have are going to help somebody in some way, and that's all that matters to me. But it took me forever to get there, because for me it was it's not worth it to put all this energy, all this effort in a video that no one's gonna see. Well, clearly I've worked through that and I've figured out ways to still see the value in doing what I do regardless of the numbers. Not to say I don't want millions of views, because I do, but I'm not disheartened by the numbers. I'm not saddened by them. To me, they're just numbers now, and I know if I'm helping at least one person, that can help another person, and we can all just pay it forward. So in actuality, I know everything I'm doing isn't going to waste, and I'm not so caught up in the ego number centricness of it anymore, and it feels good. I feel like I've moved past that, and I've found other things that I enjoy as well, like my Snapchat and my audience on there and interacting with them, my swimwear line, and making really cute bikinis that make me and other girls feel more confident when they wear them on the beach. I say all this to say that when one thing, even if it's a big thing to you, starts to not work out or doesn't work out, it's just a sign that you need to pivot, that you need to redirect yourself, redirect that amazing energy into a different project, into a different thing, into a different person, into a different opportunity, into a different venture in your life. And eventually you will get to something that you're more aligned with, and you will feel that belonging again. And I know I'm at a place where I feel it again, and I never thought I would get there. This was at least a 4 to 5 year struggle, battle, I would say, and I feel like I'm finally now getting to the other side of that. I feel like as of 2023 was the beginning of that, and now we're almost halfway through 2023, and I feel like I'm really getting there. But I wouldn't have known that because I didn't have a zoom out lens to be okay, this is just a redirection, it's time to pivot. I didn't have a zoom out lens to see that, just how I didn't have it with that crush so many years ago. The thing about rejection is that it's unavoidable. We're going to experience it one way or another, and the less we fear it, the less daunting it's really going to be to deal with. And we'll be able to pivot faster into a direction better suited for us if we're not fearing it and trying to avoid it. So how I deal with rejection now. Obviously, it still hurts. Any rejection is going to be a little sting to your heart, but I definitely deal with it a lot better now than I ever did before. So first, I started slowly implementing the opposite action skill from DBT therapy, which is the therapy that I do, into all of my coping strategies that I shared with you guys before. So now when I'm in the car and I want to play my own music, I will. I might play it a little bit lower because, I'm still kind of scared. I'm still dealing with that whole being okay with sharing the things I like, regardless of what people think of them here. But I am actually now pushing myself to play my own music anyway. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. I'm gonna deal with it. Another thing was I have really been working hard to stop people pleasing, and I still catch myself doing it. I did a little bit of people pleasing yesterday, but I am slowly working on it and slowly setting boundaries with people, because the more I set boundaries, the more boundaries I need to set, because people want to push those boundaries. It's tough, but the more I do it, the better I get at it, and the less daunting it is. So I just gotta keep pushing myself to do that. Next thing, being less concerned with what others think / feel about me and more interested in how I think / feel about myself and living in integrity. So what I mean by this is I'm taking the focus off of other people and what I'm trying to perceive that they're thinking or feeling about me, and putting that focus on how I think and feel about myself, also how I think and feel about that other person, and also on if I am acting and living in my integrity. And by putting my focus on those instead of potentially false perception, because you can't be in somebody else's mind and you never really know what somebody is thinking or feeling about you unless they tell you. And even then, if they're not really sure, they could be giving you a vague answer or maybe an incorrect answer. And also, people's thoughts and feelings are ever changing. So maybe they like you one day and they don't like you the next. Like, what are you gonna do about it? It's out of your control. So by putting my focus on what I can control, my own thoughts, my own feelings, and my own integrity, then I just feel better. I just feel more in alignment. I feel redirected in the right direction. So that helps a lot, honestly. Next, I ask myself what my intention for doing something really is, both the negative and positive reasons, by really being honest with myself. Because when we do things, unless we're fully integrated, which we're not, I don't think there's very many of us that are, we are going to be operating from multiple points of our personality. We're going to be operating from our subconscious as well as our conscious. So whenever you decide to do something, there's going to be the reasons that you consciously know, and then there's also going to be shadow reasons. So let's say you want to be an influencer, and your conscious reason for doing so is you want to share your healthy lifestyle with others to inspire them. And let's say the shadow reason for doing so is that you didn't get enough attention as a child and you need to experience that. So you're trying to experience it through being an influencer on social media. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to experience a lot of attention that maybe you didn't receive as a child, but going to an external source to get that need met before you've met it internally can cause a lot of pain and suffering that you might not even be aware of. Because let's say you go for it and no one's watching your content and you're feeling sad every time you post because you're not getting those likes, those views, that attention, and it's bringing up your internal wounds of not getting your need of attention met as a child. Well, now it's time for you to heal it. It's bringing it up for you to heal. So it's not a bad thing that's being brought up, but you need to be aware of it so that you can heal it and that it's not running the show. Because there's so many different things that we have running in our subconscious that we don't realize that are influencing us to do certain things that maybe we don't actually want to be doing. Maybe you don't actually want to be an influencer, but you would rather be a nutritionist or a fitness coach, and you'd rather get your need for attention met through within you and through the close people around you, and you don't actually want a lot of eyeballs on you. In that case, healing the shadow reason might cause you to completely redirect your life, and maybe getting the rejection from people watching makes you realize that. Or maybe it makes you realize that you do want to be speaking to a lot of people, sharing your life with a lot of people, and you just have to work through that. We never know what it's going to be until we heal what we need to heal within us, and then we realize what we actually want. But you can't really know what you truly want until you get to the root of your pain, of your suffering, of your hurt. Until you get there and you go through it and grow through it, you won't fully know. Next, you need to take it off the pedestal. Whatever it is, you got to take it off the pedestal. You got to see it as equal to you. So in the example of having a crush on somebody, when you have a crush on somebody, you think they're perfect. You think they're above you. You see them as better than you. If you see something as better than you, it's not in alignment with you. We attract what we are, not what we want. So if you see something as above you, you can't attract it in. You can't bring that into your life. So if it's a person, if it's a job, if it's an opportunity, whatever it is, you need to see it as equal to you, as worthy of you, and you worthy of it. Otherwise, you won't be able to attract that into your life, and you will always see it as better, and you will be rejected by it. Now we have being okay with giving love without any expectation of a return exchange. If you understand the universal laws, you would know what you put out is what you get back. So whether you get that love back from that experience, that person, whatever you're pouring that love into, great, you got it that way. But if you don't, you will have that love poured back into you from another source. So trusting in the fact that being of love, sharing love, giving love is never lost. And the best thing you can do is to not expect anything in return from the specific source that you're pouring the love into. If you're pouring that love into a source with intentions of receiving something back, that is giving love of strings attached. It's not pure, it's conditional. And yes, we want want to give and receive in our relationships with people, but we need a foundation and an understanding in the fact that we shouldn't give to get. We should give to give, and what we get is what we get. That being said, don't overgive. Don't pour from a cup that is empty or not filled to the brim, because then you will be expecting things in return and you probably won't get them, and you'll probably feel hurt, rejected, disappointed. So only give from an overfilling cup. Pour your overflow into everything, and it won't matter to you what you receive back, because you know you're going to be receiving lots of love back in various forms, and it'll be exciting and liberating when it happens. And last but certainly not least is allowing myself to sit with the shame, the embarrassment, and not attach negative stories to enforce a belief of unworthiness within me, but instead allow myself to see me as worthy of my own love, even when I'm experiencing negative emotions. That one is really hard to do, but the more you do it and the more you realize that you can love yourself through your pain, you can love yourself when you aren't at your best, that is how you truly show yourself unconditional love, and that makes it so that you can share that unconditional love with others. So I know this video was a super long one. Thank you guys so much for watching it. There was a lot in here. If you need to rewatch it, please do so. And I will see you all in my next video next week. I love you guys so much. Bye!